Hello YouTube, it's your boy B3 back with another kicking TV reaction review, another Toku TV review actually. Today we are reviewing Kamen Rider Black Sun. Yes, this is from 2022. It is Amazon Prime original, based on the original Kamen Rider Black from back in the day. But if you haven't seen Kamen Rider Black, you can completely understand this because, and as a longtime Kamen Rider fan, I do kind of hate to say this. I do feel a little ashamed. I haven't watched Kamen Rider Black. I'm sorry. Okay? I haven't seen Kamen Rider Black. I just jump around. I just watch whichever show I feel like at the time. So, I haven't seen Kamen Rider Black. But luckily, that allows me to review this from the standpoint of someone who hasn't, which most people in the West would be. So, ta-da, here we are. But it's... God, I loved it. I really loved it. IMDb has it at a 7.5 out of 10. It was much better than I expected. I was expecting it to be good. I was expecting it to be great, but I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I watched it over the course of 2 days. Watched most of it all at once, but saved the last 2 episodes for later, and they did not disappoint. It is a tokusatsu drama, and while it is a quote-unquote remake of Kamen Rider Black, it's much darker, you know. And Kamen Rider Black is from 1987, so it's 35-year anniversary, but it's also the 50th anniversary of Kamen Rider as a whole, which is why we have all this big Kamen Rider stuff happening, because, you know, we got the normal new yearly Kamen Rider show, but we also have this, and then Shin Kamen Rider is on its way, not to be confused with Shin Kamen Rider. But yeah, that's all gonna be happening. But you can watch it on Amazon, and they didn't change the title of it for the West like they did Kamen Rider Amazons, because Kamen Rider Amazons, if you want to watch it, it's under Amazon Riders, and also it doesn't end. Kamen Rider Amazons was 2 seasons and a movie, and I still believe that the movie is not on Prime in the West, so... But luckily for you, I reviewed that. And Amazons and Black Sun are really the same basic concept. You know, take an older Kamen Rider series and then sort of reimagine it for the modern day, but as a darker adult show. And Kamen Rider is one of those franchises like Batman or Godzilla that can just really handle any tone. Because you've seen me on this, you know, channel a lot saying I don't ever want Power Rangers to go dark and gritty. I think it works best as a hopeful, optimistic franchise. And Kamen Rider can kind of take a more realistic look at things, and it has been for decades. I've seen Kamen Rider shows for kids that are pretty brutal. In fact, the original Kamen Rider Amazon was, like, canceled halfway through for being too much. Kamen Rider just works on all levels with all tones and everything, just like Godzilla has and just like Batman has. Those are usually my go-tos, but Kamen Rider is also a great example of that. And this show, I believe, is proof. It is directed by Kazuya Shiraishi. I'm sorry. And also the composer was Kenta Matsumura. And that's some top tier composing. I love the little theme for this. Do 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 do. Simple but so effective. Oh my god, what a magnificent theme. It's only 10 episodes. They are long episodes, but there are only 10. And it can be a little intense. There are scenes that are legit hard to watch. The first scene of episode 1 is 2 children being mutilated so they can be turned into monsters. Yeah. And those children are Shadow Moon and Black Sun. So they become Kaijin. Locust Kaijin, which look great. I love the Locust Kaijin suits. They're basically the same suit, but one is black in its entirety, pretty much, and then one has kind of silvery colors instead. And they are sort of they're anti-heroes, and their status changes throughout the movie, whether they're anti-heroes or anti-villains, but no one's ever either really a straight up villain or a straight up hero, at least not out of the two of them. And in this show, kaijins, and if you don't know what a kaijin is, it's kind of like a beast person. You know, all the monsters that the Power Rangers would fight in their show, those are kaijin. And kaijin have been given equal rights to humans, but they aren't treated like they have equal rights to humans. Yeah, we're getting into the commentary, and it's not just about racism, it's about classism, it's about any kind of discrimination, any and all kinds. And there's this like fascist group marching around the streets, like trying to antagonize kaijin so that the kaijin will be arrested or shot, and it's pretty horrible. And then some of the kaijin suits are a bit goofier, but you know, that's just part of tokusatsu. You know, there are just always going to be some kind of goofy things about Toku, especially in the more ancient hero Toku stuff. So if you're not really used to tokusatsu, some of the suits and posing and stuff will seem much goofier to you than it does to me. I acknowledge that. But I'm a longtime Toku Timothy, you could say. The first movie I ever remember watching was Godzilla vs. Megalon. I've been a lifelong Power Rangers fan. I love Ultraman, Gamera, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Metal Heroes, all that stuff. VR Troopers, it's all there. It's all in my little tiny boyish little brain. All of it! Oh, excuse me. And then the government has made this kind of deal with the kaijin. And there's also the Prime Minister of Japan, who seems like he's kosher, but he is not, my friends. He is not. He's like creating kaijin out of humans and selling them as slaves. And it's really horrifying. And the people that he's turning into kaijin are people who are kind of already marginalized groups. He's like taking the elderly, because he's like, oh, these lonely elderly people won't be missed. And he's taking people in the pride community, because he's like, oh, they don't have kids that'll come looking for them, and their parents have disowned them, so we're just gonna scoop them all up, turn them into kaijin. And you know, he's just taking people that already have prejudices against them, because people will care less if they go missing. Pretty insane. Pretty insane. And there's this human rights activist and kaiju rights activist named Aoi, and she's real innocent. She kind of doesn't understand the complexity of the issues. She's very hopeful and optimistic and idealistic, and she's like, oh, there's no difference between me and my kaiju friends, and there really isn't. There isn't, and that viewpoint is kept by her through the entirety of the series, all the way to the end of the final episode. But she doesn't understand everything that's going on behind the scenes. She doesn't understand all the prejudice and stuff. She doesn't understand that the government itself is manipulating everyone's viewpoints to hate marginalized groups so that the government can become more powerful and make more profit. And it's like, is this even fictional anymore? Like, I know we don't have locust people running around, but yikes. You know, it hits really hard. And now I'm going to start pushing into more spoilery territory. I'm going to start saying things that are going to be spoilers, so keep that in mind. So, our protagonist, Black Sun, is actually supposed to assassinate Aoi. But he doesn't, because he sees the Kingstone around her neck. And eventually, they kind of grow to become family, because Aoi's family Like her parents left her with two adoptive moms so that they could go into hiding, but she could live a normal life because her parents were pro kaijin activists that are on the run. And one of her two moms, I believe, is in China. A little weird that, because it kind of seems like they didn't want to show the two moms together. It almost feels like that, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because they didn't have anything for the second mom to do, but I think she was in China during the events of everything happening here. Uh, and then the other foster mom is killed by a kaijin. Uh, and then there are like these, there are kind of some Uncle Tom kaijin as well in this, which is very interesting. Uh, this is, I know it's called Kamen Rider Black Sun, but it's really not as black and white as these projects about prejudice and stuff often portray things. It's very, very interesting, especially to me, because I am a member of the Pride community myself. So I think that also helped it really hit home with me more so than it might others. Because I was looking at other people's reviews, not like big article reviews or video reviews, just like little things on like IMDb and stuff, ones that were basically comments. And a lot of people in the comments section were like, oh, all the stuff about the discrimination and stuff made me uncomfortable, but the fight scenes are cool. And I'm like, bud, it's kind of supposed to make you uncomfortable. You're supposed to be uncomfortable watching that because it parallels real world events. There's a scene in here where a kaijin is shoved to the ground basically because he sheds his human disguise. A police officer kneels on his neck and he says, "I can't breathe." And I'm like, that's a little familiar, don't you think? Because I think a lot. Yeah. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable when you see these racist fascists treating the kaijin like racist fascist bigots treat people in real life. And throughout this, all these racist bigot people are like, oh, kaijins aren't even human. How can we trust people that aren't even human? And then later it's revealed every single kaijin is human. Every single one of them. Fully biologically human. I mean, if they weren't human, it wouldn't matter. But it kind of just shows a mirror. It holds a mirror up to the people that didn't think they were. The kaijin were all made due to human experimentation. And here's the thing. This series, it's also kind of calling out Japan, and this is a Japanese series, it's calling out Japan for Unit 731, which I didn't expect because I never, ever, ever hear anyone talking about Unit 731. If you aren't familiar with it, Unit 731 was this horrible unit that Japan had during World War II, and they did horrifying human experiments. Like, just the worst stuff. I didn't even know about it until I read Jeremy Robinson's Project 731, which is part of the Project Nemesis series. It's book 0, not book 1, book 0, because Nemesis isn't in it. And in that book, they were talking about Unit 731, and I was like, is that real? I remembered this was years ago, and I Googled it, and I was like, whoa, this is real, and it's way worse than I thought. Like these scientists were like doing just the work. Like I want to give examples, but I honestly feel like I shouldn't. It's that bad. Like I want to say one of the things they were doing, one of the real specific things, but I just like I can't even bring myself to do it. Just read the Wikipedia. Just the first paragraph on Wikipedia is enough to make you gag. It was that insane. And that's basically what created the Kaijin was Unit 731. They don't name it. They don't say it by that name, but that was very interesting to me. It kind of reminded me a lot of Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack, because in that film, uh, is also kind of calling out Japan for wartime atrocities and stuff. Uh, and this does the same thing. So it's got a lot of stuff for the Japanese, but it's also got a lot of stuff for Western audiences. And a lot of Eastern media has been branching out into the West recently, much to my thrill, because Kamen Rider Black itself, the original, is getting a Blu-ray release soon, I think next year in 2023. We got this subtitled, not dubbed, but subtitled. And I do have trouble reading subtitles sometimes because of my disability, but I was able to stay pretty well focused on this one thanks to medication. But, that makes me happy because I've been watching Japanese media my whole life. And a lot of it that I've wanted to watch hasn't been available legally, so I'm happy that that's happening. Like, Ultraman's easy to get over here now. Super Sentai, they're going to start putting back over here. Kamen Rider's finally making its way out here. Hoping for, like, Metal Heroes and stuff next. So happy. So happy. And also, Korean media is very popular here. And the Koreans, they know how to write a TV show. they have excellent television in Korea. Anyways, I'm a little off topic, but that is part of it. But it's not like it's not relevant to the West. Bigotry is literally everywhere, much to my chagrin. It's everywhere, and that's not great. It's not good. It's not even fine. It's bad, and that makes me sad. And eventually our female lead gets turned into one of the Kaijin, and it's pretty wild. And then we have both our riders, Shadow Moon and Black Sun. They have such a complicated relationship. I'm trying not to give too many plot points, but then it's also willing to kill off a lot of characters, Game of Thrones style. Like Aoi's, I said that her foster mom was killed, but both her birth parents end up slaughtered. And this is the death I kind of really want to talk about, so this one's a really big spoiler. Her best friend is a Kaijin, and he's like a harmless Kaijin. He's a little sparrow Kaijin. And when Shadow Moon goes full Magneto, he kind of joins Shadow Moon. And he stands up on his lonesome to the group of racist fascists that's marching around for more than half the show. He stands up to them. They murder him. They murder Shunasuke. They do it brutally and horribly. It's legit hard to watch. But what comes next is even harder to watch. Because they take his body that they have just absolutely destroyed, and they tie it to a pole above his parents' house, and they leave a bigoted sign hanging on it. And that scene almost made me cry, because he was a good guy that just wanted to protect people. He even was helping save humans from bigotry. He was being a regular Ruth Bader Ginsburg. He wasn't just focusing on one group. He was trying to help everybody. Yeah, he was fighting for Kaijin independence, but he also went and he freed the elderly people that were being experimented on. He freed the gay people that were being experimented on. He freed the immigrants that were being experimented on. He freed all these people. And then the government sends agents in to just slaughter everybody. Absolutely everybody. Human, Kaijin, they don't distinguish between them. The government is just putting them all down to save their own face. They don't care about any of them. Holy shit. But luckily, after those horrible scenes, I mean, they were good scenes, but where horrible things happened. Shadow Moon takes his rider form for the first time at the end of episode 7 and pops the fascist leader's head like a goddamn grape. I swear I had a dry orgasm when he popped that dude's head. God! It was. Oh. I've been waiting like the whole 7 episodes for that guy to get what was coming to him. Whew. I really was. But there are like side characters who are villains for the first half, but get like some redemption. Like this one guy, and he has this like really symbolic breaking of a saber to kind of show that he's changed his ways. And he dies trying to save someone that he was maybe doing horrible things to in the first half of the show. And he's not like forgiven. And he dies knowing that he's not forgiven, but he also dies trying to do better. And it was a very, very interesting side character. Really, truly. And then, we get a new Creation King, and the Creation King is like this special kaijin. The first kaijin was the Creation King, and this nectar that he emits can be used to create more kaijin, and there's a lot of stuff going on with the Creation King, and there's also a lot of flashbacks in this show. There's a lot of flashbacks, and they're not entirely seamless flashbacks. They could be better, but I was pretty good at recognizing when something was a flashback. I think there was one time where it confused me, and I didn't think it was a flashback, because some of the kaijin, they eat this thing called heaven, and they don't age. But some of them don't eat it, and they do age. So the ones that have aged are kind of an indicator a lot of the time, but also 70s fashion. And sometimes the 70s scenes have a bit of a browner tint, but sometimes not really. So the flashbacks could be a bit more seamless to show how our characters got to where they are in the modern day, 50 years later. But could be worse. Could be worse. But we got excellent character design. It's impeccably cast. It's just such a good show. Kamen Rider Black Sun is almost perfect for a longtime Toku fan. And all these people that are like, I don't want to watch Kamen Rider with a message. Shut the fuck up. You think this is the first Kamen Rider show with a message? Where have you been? I've been seeing people commenting stuff like that online, and I'm sorry, but you're fucking wrong. I mean, if you don't want to watch a show with a message, you're not wrong that you don't want to do that, but you're wrong to think that all these things you've loved over these years haven't had one. Maybe you just haven't gotten it. There's so many people out here that don't realize that Alien is about sexual violence and all these other things. It's insane to me. The Kamen Rider Black Sun has some great metaphor and imagery, but also some things that are just like they're in your face about it. Because at the end of the show, even though the Prime Minister has been defeated, I mean, his political party still exists. The bigots don't go away. And in a lot of movies and shows, once those fighting bigotry kind of defeat the big boss, it's kind of played off like they've fixed it for the most part. And that's just not true. And Kamen Rider Black Sun acknowledges that. I mean, the Prime Minister is dealt with, but Shadow Moon's defeated. But does anything change for the kaijin? No. There's still just as many bigots running around, even with it being proven that every kaijin is a human victim of experimentation. People don't care. Because being bigoted towards them is easier than accepting that they were wrong. It's insane. I mean, the understanding is wild. I mean, at the end of the show, there's a scene where there's another bigoted protest, but it's not against Kaijin, it's against immigrants. There are these people protesting to get rid of immigrants. And it's like, hey, if you empathize with the Kaijin, maybe you should empathize with some real world groups. Because I've met people who say they love X-Men. And then they'll just be absolute racists. It's like, do you love X-Men? Because it sounds to me like you don't even understand X-Men. Because if you did, it seems like you would hate it. I don't know. These people are just... The show doesn't hold back. I think it's great for an Eastern and a Western audience. You do have to read subtitles, and on Amazon Prime, when you select English subtitles, it doesn't give you subtitles for when Aoi is speaking English, because she speaks English when she's at the United Nations, which she goes to a couple times throughout the show. And she gives these speeches, and at the beginning of the show in episode 1, her speech isn't too hard to understand. But then in episode 9, I want to say, she's giving her speech to the UN. And I can't understand her with the music playing. It's very hard to understand her. Why didn't you just give subtitles for the whole thing? You know, some people need subtitles for, like, issues with their hearing and stuff, you know? Like, deaf people need subtitles. So if you stop playing subtitles when she starts speaking in English, you're not doing anyone any favors except yourself, because you don't have to pay to make more subtitles. Bezos. And I mean, there's a couple other complaints, like, where do the Kamen Riders get their belts? I thought Shadow Moon and Black Sun got them from their dads, but I guess it's anyone who has the ability to become a king, because Aoi gets one, but when she uses it, she just turns into her Kaijin form and doesn't become a rider. Which is odd and dumb. If you're going to give her a belt, give her a rider form. Come on, y'all. But honestly, that's it. I'm going to stop here because it's already been like 30 minutes. Thank you all very much for your support. I would love to discuss this on stream, maybe. I loved Kamen Rider Black Sun, and hopefully you'll love it too. So that's it. Thank you all once again for your support. I loved everything about this show. There were just a couple little complaints, but other than that, I absolutely adored it. So thank you all very much for your support, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.